Welcome to Crimepedia. I am your host. My name is Morgan. I hope you are having a wonderful day. And with me, as always, is my true crime BFF. It is the lovely Cherry. Hello, Cherry. How are you?
I am good. Hello, everybody. We are rapidly approaching Halloween. This month is the best month of the whole year. I love October. It's a good month.
We have two amazing birthdays that occur in October. And then we finish it
do.
off with Halloween.
That's right. And we have awesome. This is when the weather's all nice and it's time for boots and jeans and socks and true crime. And yeah, it's all good. This is a good month. So, talking of true crime, last week's episode had quite a few people in for more. So, we're not going to do too much chit chat at the beginning. We're going to get right into it. So, give us a recap as to last week's episode. What happened?
Yeah. So, okay, first off, if you have not heard last week's episode, go back and do yourself a favor and listen to it because we're getting right into it, and you're gonna be really confused and you're not gonna get the whole picture. So please go back and re-listen. For those of you that have and are back, let me just do a really quick recap for you. So last week we talked about 12-year-old Josette Wright from Carmel, New York, who went missing on October 3rd, 1994. Her body would be discovered 13 months after the fact, so it's almost just over a year after she went missing. And after the discovery of her body, two boys, a 19-year-old Anthony Dipippo and 18-year-old Andrew Krivak, were arrested, charged, and ultimately convicted in her rape and murder, despite the fact that, as we discussed, there wasn't a whole lot of physical evidence that went towards their conviction. So it was really a lot of hearsay and some.
Yeah, there wasn't really a lot of evidence at all. Not enough to convict them, especially not for the sentences that they received.
That's right. So they were both sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. And so that is actually where we left off. And
we got to the appeal stages, didn't we? They'd just been sentenced, and we were ready to start the appeals.
Yeah, so let's hop right into it. So after their conviction in 1997, almost immediately, Andrew Krivak went in and actually appealed his conviction, which was upheld in 1999. Okay. So there was a long period. There was actually 12 years between the appeal being upheld, or the conviction being upheld on appeal, to really what occurred next, right? So in 2011, the appellate division of the Supreme Court ended up vacating Anthony Dipippo's conviction and ordered a new trial. Okay. The reason the court did this was that they determined that Anthony Dipippo's trial lawyer was ineffective because prior to Dipippo's trial, he represented a man named Howard Gombert on a rape charge. Okay. Now, just remember this name. This name is a name that we are going to be talking about a few times in this episode. Now, according to evidence that was presented at a evidentiary hearing, Howard Gombert had been a suspect in Josette Wright's murder.
What? He had been a suspect?
Yes.
So he
was a suspect.
So he's got previous for rape, did you just say?
He went on trial for rape prior to
so he's got
Anthony Dipippo's trial.
He's already How crazy.
His lawyer ended up being Anthony Dipippo's lawyer, but it wasn't
Huh.
disclosed. So this is a huge issue, right? So you have a lawyer
Yeah.
that is uh, basically he's representing a man on trial for a
Yeah.
crime that another man who had previously been on trial for rape was a suspect in. Okay.
Wow.
Now this is where it gets interesting, right? So Anthony Dipippo's attorney, this is on his during the appeal, or his attorney at the time had been provided reports prior to Anthony Dipippo's trial showing that a witness reported seeing Josette getting into a car driven by Howard Gombert at 4 p.m. on the day she was last seen.
So who is this witness? Because again, this is another hearsay. Another person's come forward with an "I saw this."
It is. It is another hearsay. So this is actually
Yeah.
this is a woman who was familiar with both Josette and Howard Gombert. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the other thing that's really interesting. So you remember how we talked about in last episode, people reported seeing Josette in a red van,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was owned by Andrew Krivert or
That's
Krivak,
right. Yeah.
right? Well, originally, so investigators took what was originally said, which was that they had seen Josette getting into a red car,
Yeah.
and they changed it into a red van to fit their narrative.
No.
This car that they were referring to was Howard Gombert's car.
I don't understand this. We talked about this last week. I don't
Hmm.
understand why you would fit someone to fit your narrative. You would change things to fit your narrative. Surely you want the right person put away, not any person, because then that means that the person that actually did
Hmm.
it is still out there.
Yes. So, do you remember also last episode we talked about how Josette was desperate to find a loving family, and
Yeah, yeah. Because
she was
her
staying with her
family was
friend
awful, wasn't it?
Rachel.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, she was staying with Rachel and her mom.
yeah,
Her name was Sheila. Okay,
yeah.
Sheila was the witness to Josette getting into a red and black coupe that Howard Gombert was driving.
Oh my goodness.
Not only that, Gombert had been accused of raping not only Sheila previous to this, but also raping Rachel.
See, now that makes it an unstable. That makes it unstable because then to me that
It
means that
does.
obviously they've got a vendetta against him because of what possibly could have happened to them, and so then that
Yes.
makes them to me an
Hmm.
unreliable witness. Personally,
It is possible. Yes. Yeah. But I think the big key to this, and if you take away what they say they saw, which was they saw Josette getting into Howard's car, right? But if you take it and look at it as a fact that the police took it as we saw Josette getting into a red and black coupe driven
yeah,
by Howard Gombert, and changing that to we Josette got into a red van driven by Andrew Krivak. That's
yeah,
two
yeah.
completely different things
It's
that we're working on. So you do while there's questions about the reliability of Sheila and what she saw because of what had occurred to her,
But why did she let her get in the car? If she saw her getting in a
I
car with him, if he had raped her and her daughter, why would you let her get in the car with him? You wouldn't. You'd be
no idea. No,
screaming at
you
the
wouldn't
top
think
of your
so. Yeah,
lungs
yeah.
to get that girl
Mhm.
away from him, knowing what's happened to you and what's happened to your daughter. So that doesn't make any sense to me
Mhm.
either.
Yeah. The thing about this guy though, this is what's really weird about I don't want to say weird about Howard Gombert. So Howard Gombert had a pattern that he would do with women, and I'm going to say with children as well, where he
Okay.
would basically groom that. He was grooming a lot of people at this time. And while there would be situations in which Howard and some of his victims would have consensual sexual relations, a lot of them would say that he would often become very violent, and he would basically commit sexual assault on them.
Yeah,
So
he's
they
not a nice
weren't.
guy, is he?
Yeah, so it's one of these things where it's like, well, I am having this relationship with this guy, and I did have sexual relations with him. So is it rape if he takes advantage of me, and
Yeah, yeah.
which it is. The other thing about Howard Gombert is Howard Gombert was known, and it was actually in later trials. This was in testimony that he enjoyed tying people up with both zip ties and ropes, and that
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that.
he would also often use very complex knots that would tighten as the person resisted.
Oh,
Now, this
wow.
is something that would be seen in how Josette was tied up, because you
Well, yeah,
remember she
that's
was
right. Because I
tied
remember
up.
she was tied up with her hands behind her back, like hog tie style, wasn't she?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. He would also often also punch and choke his victims
Oh,
during the act. And at least one victim said that his eyes would turn pitch black, like he was in some sort of rage. So this is not a good guy at all.
no. Well, especially not if he's having sex with children. He's obviously a wrong 'un.
No, oh, extremely. I mean, he's known to have assaulted girls as young as 12. Um,
Ah, sicko.
there's probably so yeah, this guy is absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Huh.
Um, now when police actually did confiscate Howard Gompert's car at the prior to the trials of Anthony Dipippo and Andrew Krivak, which they ended up dismantling, but they ended up not finding any evidence that would link Howard Gombert to the abduction and murder of Josette Wright. They did investigate, they did take a look, but they didn't find anything, and they pushed it off to the side.
But
Okay.
they didn't find anything against the other two lads
Well,
other than hearsay and a witness saying that they saw this. So that
well,
doesn't make any sense.
yeah, they did say that they found what earrings and some jewelry in
Yeah,
there, but
but then they had a
um,
witness come forward to say that
say no,
the
I just
van
cleaned
was
it and it wasn't
actually
there. Yeah.
yeah, and the van was actually in for repair, so they couldn't have been
Hmm.
driving it that day because I'm the mechanic and I had it in for repair. So that kind of counteracts that what they
Exactly.
found in quotation marks.
Hmm. Yep. Exactly. No, you
Mm.
absolutely right.
So this whole thing is such a mess, isn't it?
Oh, it's a huge mess. It's a huge mess. And
Terrible.
this is what happens when you take something to trial with very little evidence, like physical
Yeah.
evidence,
Yeah.
and you somehow get a conviction. You're in for a fight at this point. I mean, you have
Yeah.
two people in jail at this point, in prison, which I would
The
think
defense
most
must have
people
been
would
loving this.
question, should they be there?
Exactly.
You would think.
100%.
You would
I
think.
mean,
Yeah,
yeah, because
absolutely.
there's nothing really concrete. It's all just
Mhm.
hearsay evidence. It's not even circumstantial because there isn't any circumstances. It's just
Yeah,
hearsay evidence. I don't know how they got a conviction on this. I really don't know.
right. Now, the appeals court noted that not only did Anthony Dipippo's lawyer fail to reveal that he had previously represented Howard Gombert in an unrelated criminal case,
Yeah.
but the lawyer also made no attempt to present any evidence pointing to Howard Gombert as the real killer, despite the fact that he was a suspect. The appeals court noted that the lawyer did not conduct even a minimal investigation into Howard Gombert.
This is crazy.
Hmm. Yeah. So because of this, they're like, yeah, you deserve a retrial. You're gonna go and have a retrial. So a retrial began in the spring of 2012.
Good.
Okay. So
Good.
Anthony DePipo once again went up and faced testimony, and he was being prosecuted again. Now during this one, Adam Wilson, who was one of the people that originally said that he was in the van with Anthony DePipo, Andrew Krivak, and Josette Wright, he had previously recanted. He once again recanted during the second trial. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Um, then we also had William McGregor. He also testified again. He was another one who said that he was in a van
Yeah.
and he saw what happened. He would also recant the testimony that he gave at the first trial, that he was present in the van when both Andrew Krivak and Anthony Dipippo raped and killed Josette. So now you have another person recant. So he said, nope, I wasn't there. That didn't happen.
I hope he
Okay.
gets charged for that. Yeah.
So now you have two people who were in original trials or part of the original investigation that said they were there, they were witnesses, both saying, nope, it didn't happen. I lied.
I just said what you wanted me to say.
Now, both William McGregor and Adam Wilson said that detectives had threatened to charge them with the murder if they did not point their fingers at Andrew Krivak and Anthony Dipippo.
Makes
So
sense.
that's why they lied. That's why they said, yeah, we were there and that we saw it, because they were afraid that they were going to have it pointed at them.
Yeah. Understandable.
Mm-hmm. Now, Denise Rose, you remember Denise Rose from last one? She's the only person that stuck with her word, even though what she said in their testimony constantly was changing. She would once again testify that she was present in the van that Anthony Dipippo and Andrew Krivak were in, where they raped and killed Josette. So her story remained the same. She did not change her. Well, I don't want to say the same because
I was going to say she changed her story all the time. She was not a reliable witness, was she? At all?
Yeah, she is not. But she's still in the picture. She said, "Yeah, I was there, and this is what happened." Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the defense sought to present testimony from a man named Joseph Santoro, but the judge did not allow it. Okay. So Santoro had been incarcerated in Connecticut with Howard Gombert, who was serving at this point. He was serving a sentence for rape. Joseph Santoro had provided a sworn affidavit saying that in April 2011, Howard Gombert admitted that Putnam County police were trying to get him for the killing of two girls in Putnam County. One of the girls was Josette Wright, but Gombert wasn't worried about that case because, and I quote, they already convicted some other suckers for that crime.
Oh dear.
All right.
Oh dear,
Once
dear,
again,
dear.
so now you got someone coming in saying Howard Gombert said, yeah, he did it, but he's not worried about it. Now, Santoro said in his affidavit that Howard Gombert told him that he had met Josette at his former girlfriend's house and was attracted to her. According to Santoro, Gombert said that the only way he could get Josette into his car was to ask her to babysit for his daughters, which I will mention, this is something that Howard Gombert 100% had done previously. So there was in one of his other rapes that he did, it was a girl that he got to babysit his daughter before he actually sexually assaulted him. So Howard Gombert would use his daughter as almost bait, like, hey, I need a babysit for my daughter to lure these girls in. That is 100% something he did. Okay. Now, after that, Howard Gombert said that he had sex with Josette, but he had to persuade her because she did not want to have sex with him. Santoro also said that Howard Gombert made statements regarding a second missing girl whose body he claimed would never be found. Santoro said he interpreted Gombert's statement as both that Gombert had killed both girls. Now, the defense was also barred from calling several women who were prepared to testify that they had been sexually molested by Howard Gombert, in that he had tied them up and stuffed clothing into their mouths. Just like what happened with Josette.
Like Josette.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. One of the witnesses was the victim in the case that led to Howard Gombert's imprisonment in Connecticut. So the defense was not allowed to call this woman who had been raped by Howard Gombert, who had been tied up by Howard Gombert, who had clothes stuffed in her mouth by Howard Gombert, who he went on trial and was found guilty of raping. The defense was not allowed to call her to testify.
That's crazy.
So on May 9th, 2012, Anthony Dipippo was once again convicted of second-degree murder.
Oh, no. Come on.
He would once again be sentenced to 25 years in life in prison.
Thank God I've never been arrested in that county.
I don't know what more you need.
What
I don't know what more you need.
exactly? Well, obviously, it's probably quite a good. That's just. I don't know. That is absolutely ridiculous. That's crazy.
So Anthony Dipippo would be in prison for another 4 years until March 2016, when the New York Court of Appeals once again reversed Anthony Dipippo's conviction and ordered another trial.
Oh man, what a waste of taxpayers' money!
This court, so the New York Court of Appeals, stated that the evidence that was presented was arguably overwhelming. The defense should have been allowed to present Joseph Santoro's testimony about Howard Gombert's admission, as well as the testimony from the women
Wow.
who said Howard Gombert sexually assaulted them in a fashion similar to the attack on Josette. No shit.
It's like near on exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it is. You could literally, if you put them side by side, it's near on identical cases.
Mm-hmm.
In what he's done to them.
It is.
The knots, the stuff in their mouth, that kind of stuff, the fact that he's raped them, the fact that he hasn't got a preference whether it's adult women or children. I mean, how much closer can you get with this?
It's mind-blowing. Like, the decisions that have been made in these cases, especially the second case where there's evidence that needs to be presented that the judge isn't allowing. So of course there's going to be appeals, and of course the appeals are going to say no, he deserves another trial because you did not handle this case properly. This is absolutely insane.
But how has there been those 12 jury members and not one of them has looked at this and gone, this doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense. I mean, you're talking about, a judge, you've got all those court people, you've got the defense, the prosecution. I mean, even as a prosecution, you must look at this and go, this isn't right. This doesn't add up very well. That we've got nothing against these guys. We're just clutching at straws.
To be fair, though, the jury hasn't been able to hear the whole story. They haven't been able to hear everything about Howard Gombert. They haven't been able to hear about him potentially boasting and bragging about committing the murders.
Still, they have heard about these lads, and they have heard all the unreliable testimony against these two lads. And I don't understand how they've convicted even without another suspect. I mean, obviously, if they heard all about Harold Gombert, then you're going to have to, there's reasonable doubt there straight away. But the amount of reasonable doubt without that is huge.
But here's the thing, to be fair with these juries, for the past, 15 years at this point, all they've known is, these two boys killed this girl. That's what they've heard. Because you got to remember, this is a small community. This is not a heavily populated county. It's small. Everyone probably, this is one of those cases where everyone's going to know about it. And so you're going to be like, that
shouldn't be allowed. Then that shouldn't be allowed. They should be moving.
Well, it shouldn't.
No.
Somewhere else where it's like
impartial. Like that's right, impartial people.
You can't, at this point, you can't have an impartial jury, right? I mean, because this hasn't been in the news for 15 years now.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's unfortunate.
Crazy.
It is.
This is something, but this is someone's life. This is these two men's life, and it's that young girl's murder. We're trying to get justice for her murder, and to convict two people where the evidence is sketchy at best. For this, I would not be able to sleep at night knowing that I put those two guys into prison when there's hardly any evidence whatsoever. In fact, there's no evidence on other than hearsay. And the person that has actually not recounted their testimony has changed their story 5 or 6 times. Totally unreliable witness. So how not even one of those jurors has said there is reasonable doubt, unless the jurors are being paid off, or I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. This is so unfair.
Yeah.
It's such an unfair trial.
It is unbelievably unfair. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, once again, during this third trial, our best friend in the world, Denise Rose, once again testified. And she would once again say that she was present in the van when Andrew Krivak and Anthony Dipippo raped and killed Josette on October 3rd, 1994. Remember that, October 3rd, 1994, okay? Now, during the third trial, the defense team presented testimony from a woman named Allison Clokey, okay, who testified that she saw Josette at the Danbury Mall on October 7th, 1994. 4 days
Okay.
after Denise Rose said
Yeah.
the crime occurred. Okay. Not only that, the defense would also have a woman named Lorraine McLaughlin testify, who happened to have been one of Josette's teachers, say that she saw Josette at the Poughkeepsie Mall on October 8th, 1994.
So
5
5
days
days
after
after.
Denise Rose
That's
said the crime occurred.
yeah. Wow.
So
Okay.
either Denise Rose is lying that she was witness to a crime on October 3rd, 1994, or two women who saw her after the fact, one being a teacher, a former teacher, Josette Wright.
Yeah. So you'd think that was
Either they're lying.
quite a strong, that you'd say that is quite a strong witness. It's somebody who was a teacher at her school, knows her, would recognize
Mm-hmm.
her. So you'd think that would be somebody who's quite
Mm-hmm.
strong. So that's really
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah. Very strange. Now, the defense would also present evidence during this trial that during the interview with law enforcement prior to the third trial, Denise Rose admitted she said a crime occurred on October 3rd because the detective who was interrogating her told her that was the day that Josette was reported missing, right? So now Denise Rose is saying, oh, yeah, well, I said December 3rd because that's when the detective told me she went missing. So I said, yeah, that's the day that she was raped and murdered.
Oh, God. This is terrible. This is so
Now,
bad.
it is really bad. Now, in attacking Denise Rose's testimony, defense noted that Denise Rose had admitted that she had smoked crack cocaine more than 10,000 times.
Oh, my God.
And that she actually maintained an intimate relationship with Anthony Dipippo for several months after the murder.
Because you
So
would.
what they're saying is,
Of course you would.
yeah,
Weirdo.
you saw your boyfriend rape and murder a 12-year-old girl, but I'm going to stay intimate
stay with
with
you anyway.
with him.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. It's insane. Now, also during the third trial, Joseph Santoro was able to testify about Howard Gombert's admission to having killed Josette and another girl. Then also the judge did allow the two women who had wanted to testify against Gombert and say, yeah, he raped me and he did it in a very similar fashion to how Josette was found. They were also allowed to testify. One of these two now women that was allowed to testify, one of them was 7 years old at the time of her rape.
7. Oh my God. It's just not right, is it? It's not right for an adult to find a child attractive in any way or form.
No.
There is no way that you can justify that. I don't care what human rights team you're supporting or anything. There is no excuse. There is no way to rational it. It is sick. It is twisted, and it is wrong. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. It's crazy. It makes me so mad.
Look, if you were a detective, and let's say hypothetically, you were a detective and you wanted to throw the book at anyone for this crime.
Yeah.
Would you throw the book at an 18 and 19-year-old boy who, in their own right, they're fuck ups, right? Because they're involved in drugs.
Yeah, they're
doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
Or would you rather throw the book at a potential child rapist?
That's the one. That's the one I'd be going for.
Make up a story about him. Make up a case against Howard Gombert, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's right. Not that it's right to make up cases against someone, but this guy is a piece of shit. This guy is a child rapist.
Yeah.
And he deserves fucking make up a case against him.
He deserves to be shipped off to Cherry Island and blown up.
100%. Twice.
That's it. He doesn't exactly twice. Exactly. And when you look at the two of them, if you are going, like you say, if you are going to make a case against anybody, that guy's a shitbag. You know, he's an arsehole. Get rid of him. You know, make the case up against him. I know that these, like you say, these two young guys, yes, okay, they take drugs. They're not doing good stuff. They're dumb. They're stupid kids. But that's what they are. Dumb, stupid kids that are taking drugs and being a nuisance. They're not child rapists. This guy is a child rapist. And I just don't. It's this whole case from start to finish has been the biggest injustice ever. It makes an absolute mockery of the American justice system. It is a mess, an absolute
It's
embarrassment.
embarrassing. It is
Yeah.
embarrassing. It's like I can't believe when I was playing this game, I could not believe what I was reading and what I was,
No.
going over this. I couldn't believe it. I could understand if this was a case where it's like, okay, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. For me, this is a case of they didn't fucking do this. There's
Yeah,
nothing
that's
here that
right.
says that they did it. They didn't do this. And so it's like, it's unbelievable that we even got to this point. We're talking about now at this point, Anthony Dipippo has been in prison for nearly, at this point, 20 years? Nearly 20
That's
years he's in
20 years of
prison.
his
For
life
what?
missing for something that he's not done, you know? I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
isn't even
No.
looking at the actual evidence that was given, there isn't even the slightest chance that these lads could have done this.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
just crazy.
Now, on October 11th, 2016, the jury of the third trial acquitted Anthony Dipippo, and he
Thank
was
God for that.
released from prison.
Good. I hope he sought
So Anthony Dipippo,
compensation after
he
that.
was out 2016. Yeah. Now, because of
Good. I'm
this,
glad.
because his conviction was overturned and he was acquitted, Andrew Krivak would petition for a new trial. However, his petition was denied without a hearing. So the appeals court said, nope.
Even though
Yeah.
the guy, his co-defendant, has just been acquitted.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is crazy. It gets worse.
So, yeah. So Andrew Krivak gets screwed because they decide, no, I think I don't know. I don't know what the reason was. If they decided, oh, well, you had good counsel and you had a fair trial. Too bad, too sad. That's what it almost seems like to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's in that case, it's really fucked up. If
Oh,
them to say,
100%.
no, you don't even get a hearing. We're just going to deny it off the bat. Like, nope, sorry.
That's really
Too bad.
That's really
now,
bad.
So a year after Anthony Dipippo was acquitted and released, he would file a federal civil rights lawsuit seeking compensation.
Good.
Now, separately, he did receive $2.9 million in compensation from the New York Court of Claims in 2018.
Right.
And so he did get compensated for being thrown in jail or prison for some bullshit, basically.
Oh,
in January
no.
2019, the New York Appellate Division, Second Department, ended up reversing the dismissal of Andrew Krivak's petition for a new trial, and the court ordered a hearing on that petition to be held. So it took just over 2 years. It took just over 2 years for someone to say, "Whoa, this is not right. We're going to overthrow this. Your petition being thrown out. You're going to get a hearing." So it took 2 years just for them to say, "Yeah, you can have a hearing." In February 2019, so this is the following month, U.S. District Judge Nelson Roman declined to dismiss Anthony Dipippo's federal lawsuit. Now, in his ruling, Judge Roman outlined evidence presented by Anthony Dipippo's lawyers that included DNA testing of Andrew Krivak's van, which failed to detect any traces of Josette's DNA, even though she had allegedly been raped and murdered in it.
So there's going to
Josette's
be DNA, isn't there?
100%. If it happened the way that Denise Rose said it happened, there would be DNA in that van. There was
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Nope. No. Her DNA was found nowhere in that van.
What more do they need? What more do they need to get this guy out? I mean, this is just embarrassing. I think kids in kindergarten could hold a better court than this.
Mm-hmm. The judge also presented evidence that after Anthony Dipippo's second conviction, and while the case was being appealed, Putnam County District Attorney Adam Levy began reinvestigating the case after video footage came to light showing Detective Costaldo beating a shackled prisoner. Okay. Levy discovered that Castaldo had withheld notes about the investigation of one of Howard Gombert's other victims from Anthony Dipippo's defense lawyers. Okay. Levy concluded that
Seriously?
Castaldo had shown Denise Rose much of the evidence in the case and met with her repeatedly to shape her testimony. Denise Rose herself admitted that Castaldo and Detective William Quick had threatened her with prosecution if she refused to testify against Anthony Dipippo.
I'm starting to have no words. I'm starting to have no words on this. This is just crazy.
So I think there's a few things that are really important from that. So you remember last episode we talked about how they were physically abusive to some of these kids that they wanted testimony from.
That's right, yeah.
Including Dominic Neglia, who said that they had pushed him out of a chair and said, "Oh, we saw you fall." So now we have evidence that these detectives would beat prisoners.
Yeah, that's right.
And use tactics to get people to do their bidding.
Yeah.
So pieces of shit.
That's just crazy.
It's insane. It's insane.
It really is. It's a mess.
In May 2019, Andrew Krivak was granted a new trial, finally. Putnam County Supreme Court Judge David Zuckerman ruled that there was a reasonable probability that Andrew Krivak would be acquitted if the defense were allowed to present evidence relating to Howard Gombert.
Okay.
Now, in August 2020, Putnam County finally agreed to settle Anthony Dipippo's federal lawsuit for $12 million. So Anthony Dipippo in total was paid $14.9 million for his wrongful conviction.
14.9
In
million.
September,
It's still not good enough, though, is it?
No,
it's not
but
enough.
here's because it's definitely not enough, because how much of that is actually going to attorney fees too? So
Yeah.
I mean, a large portion of that is going to attorneys. So I mean, there's no way he's sitting around like living the high life at this point.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how much they give him anyway, because he's lost 20 years of his life.
Mm-hmm.
There's no monetary value that can get that back for you. 20 years is a long time. That's like your whole adult life. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, in September 2020, the Appellate Division 2nd Department upheld Judge Zuckerman's ruling, paving the way for a possible retrial for Andrew Krivak. Now, on October 23rd, 2020, Andrew Krivak would be released on bond to house arrest. Now, in April 2021, Joseph Santoro, we just talked about earlier, was at the Putnam County Jail on robbery and assault charges. So while he was there, he met with an attorney for an interview in anticipation of Andrew Krivak's retrial. At that point, Joseph Santoro's true nature really came out, because he demanded a new truck, $100,000, and a Louis Vuitton bag within 5 days, as well as $1.5 million in an offshore bank account to give the same testimony he gave in Anthony Dipippo's trial. He said that if he didn't get it, he said he would go to the prosecutors. Wow. Great job, Joseph Santoro. Wow. Great job.
That is just mental. It's just crazy. This whole case is the biggest bag of wank I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, the FBI was notified and recorded a conversation that was held between the attorney and Joseph Santoro's girlfriend, who during that conversation said that Joseph felt underappreciated and wanted to be compensated before helping Andrew Krivak. She said that Joseph Santoro wanted $3.3 million, and that the SUV and some of the initial $100,000 were for her. Good news. In April 2028 or April 28th, 2021, Joseph Santoro and his girlfriends were charged with conspiracy and extortion.
Yeah, there's a surprise. That's about the only thing that's gone right in this case.
Yes, finally. So Joseph Santoro would plead guilty to extortion and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. He said his testimony about Howard Gombert was true in that he was trying to get money by threatening to recant. Then, actually, earlier this year, in January 13th, 2023, his girlfriend too pled guilty to extortion charges. So something went right. Something finally went right.
That is the only thing in this whole case that actually went right. And that's because they made ridiculous, unreasonable demands. That's the only reason. I reckon if
Right.
it hadn't have been so unreasonable, they probably would have got it.
Yeah. Hey,
It's
can you
just
give me some Starbucks?
frustrating.
Done.
Yeah, that's right. I'll have a
Can I
McDonald's, a
get
Domino's, and a Starbucks. Yeah, okay, done. Brilliant.
done?
Excellent.
There you go.
Thanks for your
Nope.
statement.
$3.3 million. I want an SUV,
Idiots.
$100,000,
Idiots.
an offshore account. Get out of
But then
here.
that just goes to show the caliber of the witnesses in this case. To be fair, that just goes to show you
Right.
what kind of people that they're dealing with, and
No,
how they
absolutely.
convicted those two. How they convicted those two lads on the say-so of these people is just completely beyond me. I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And
No,
also, if you think
absolutely.
of how much in 20 years, how much of your life would change. I know that they were dirtbags at the when they were first convicted of this, and they were on, they were doing drugs and they were doing silly things, but people change and people become good people and they do good things, and they've been put inside prison, which is going to shape them in a certain way. Unfortunately, you live in prison life, you're going to adapt to prison life, it changes you as a person. So those guys have had irreparable damage done to their lives for nothing, and
Yeah.
they're not going to get that back. So being awarded that money, yeah, that's great when it lets them out. But being incarcerated for 20 years is hugely life-changing. Hugely
They are
life-changing.
going to be forever
Yes.
linked to the rape and murder
Yes.
of a
Yeah,
12-year-old girl.
that's right. And all
Every time
through
every time
evidence
they
that is
apply,
flimsy at best.
yeah. Think about this. Every time they apply for a job and the potential employer
Yeah.
decides to Google them, what's going to pop up?
Yeah, and as surely as even if it's been omitted, even if they don't have to declare it, there's going to be talk. There's going to be you never
Mhm.
guess. You know what he did, don't you? You know what he was arrested for. It's going to be like it's just it's very sad, very very sad. I think those boys have lost a
It
huge
is.
chunk of their lives, and it's very
Mhm.
unfair, very very
It is
unfair.
extremely unfair. Yeah. So on January 18th, 2023, so just earlier this year, beginning of the year, a jury was selected, and the prosecution defense lawyers gave their opening statements as Andrew Krivak went on trial a second time in Putnam County Supreme Court. On February 27th, 2023, the jury would acquit Andrew Krivak. So he would be
Finally,
acquitted. Finally.
good,
Now, the defense had
good.
presented evidence that was not presented at his first trial that occurred more than 25 years ago. Okay. Listen to this stuff. This is absolutely insane that this was not presented during his trial. Okay. So we talked about this last episode, but testimony from Andrew Krivak's father and also
Yeah,
the
that's right.
mechanic
Yeah, and the
that
mechanic.
Krivak's fan wasn't
Yeah,
inoperable at the time that Josette
yeah,
was reported missing. There was also an admission by Denise Rose that in 2019, while being questioned under oath as part of Anthony Dipippo's civil lawsuit, she falsely testified that Anthony Dipippo had
yeah,
brandished a gun in the van. Okay.
yeah.
Um, they also presented evidence that the man who gave the polygraph exam, so at this point he had been retired, that he had actually used false polygraph evidence to elicit a false conviction from another man who ended up being convicted of a crime. This polygraph examiner acknowledged being found that he had been found liable for fabricating evidence and coercing a false conviction from this man. So the person that did the polygraph exam was known to have lied and would
Nothing
falsely
surprises
give.
me.
No, not at all.
Not in this case. Nothing surprises me at all. This is just
They
another one.
also presented that McGregor, so he was one of the boys that was with them, said his previous testimony was false when
Yeah,
he testified at both Andrew Krivak's and Anthony Dipippo's original trials, that he was in the van with Denise Rose, Josette, Krivak, Dipippo, and Adam Wilson. but remember, he said that he had passed up only to wake up when he was outside
Yeah.
his home.
Yeah.
He said that the detectives made this story up for him, and that
That's right. Yeah.
he ended up signing a statement that Detective Quick wrote out because the detectives were threatening him with prosecution.
Threatened him. Yeah.
He did acknowledge during the second trial of Andrew Krivak, he did acknowledge that he testified under oath 3 times that statement was true before the grand jury in 1996 and at both the trials the following year. But he said that lying in those incidents was because he was doing what he was told to do, in that he did not know what they were talking about, but they were convincing. He said that he did it because he thought it was still okay to trust the police. So he would end up recanting in 2005. So basically, the police are telling him, yeah, this is what they did, and they did this. We just need you to tell the
Yeah.
story so
Yeah.
that they're convicted. Right?
Yeah.
They also presented evidence. This was actually there was a psychology professor from Central Michigan University who testified as an expert on false confessions. Now, she stated that the detectives used minimization of the crime, misinformation, and contamination to elicit the statement that Detective Quick wrote and had Andrew Krivak sign. Basically, this was a false confession that Andrew Krivak had
Yeah.
said, yeah, I did it, right? She said that Denise Rose's statement that Josette's hands were tied in front of her, which was wrong, was an example of a
There.
false fed fact that came from the police.
Yeah.
It was not until after the officer said that Denise Rose provided that detail that an expert determined that Josette's hands had been tied behind her. This professor also testified that the investigators lied to Andrew Krivak, saying that Anthony Dipippo had implicated him. She also said that a detective told Krivak that the polygraph machine could not tell if someone had acted on purpose or by accident, which was a form of minimization. Andrew Krivak had responded by asking what could happen to him if it was an accident, and he subsequently asked a detective if rape was less serious than murder. Krivak
This
was
is
engaging
just
in
ridiculous.
what was called temporal distancing, hoping to get out of the interrogation while ignoring the long-term consequences of confessing to a serious crime. It was also brought forth that, once again, this is absolutely insane. So once again, during the trial, the defense brought forth the 2 women that testified about the sexual assaults by Howard Gombert and how they tied up his victims and put underwear in the mouth. And so because of all this, it's like, obviously, yeah, jury finally got all the information. Like I said, he was acquitted and had his ankle monitor taken off, and that's something that had been wearing since October 23rd, 2023, and he's now a free man. But this is absolutely insane.
I would love to speak to those 2. I would love to have had them on the show, and I would love to have spoken to them, because I would just
Me
apologize
too.
for the absolute shit show that they have been involved in, and it's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So if by any chance you are one of those 2 lads and you have Googled your own names and you've come across our podcast, I apologise for the absolute inhumane way you've been treated on behalf of the whole of the American justice system. It is absolutely rubbish. And it's awful that
Yeah.
you were treated that way. And the other thing that really makes me angry about this is that the person that raped and murdered and hurt that young girl, Josette, has got away with it. There's not, there's nobody to account for what happened to her, and she was unceremoniously tied up and dumped like a piece of rubbish, and these guys have been blamed for it. That person is still, as far as we know, out there.
Well, I'll say it. He's in prison, luckily, at this point.
Well, we hope.
But he's never.
Hopefully, but he's not. It's not tied to that. He's not being held
He's not.
accountable for her murder and her rape and her beating.
I don't know. at this point, I don't know how they would even hold him accountable.
No. How could they?
Because this case has already been so muddied,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
it's been fucked to all hell that you can't trust anything that the police did. The
But
detectives and
yeah,
investigation, you can't trust any of it.
you can't
How could you
trust
get a
it.
conviction on someone in this case at this point?
And that's so unfair for her. That's so unfair for her that the person that did that to her, whether or not he's in jail anyway, has not been held accountable for her murder and for her beating and for her rape. That is what really, really annoys me, is that
Mm-hmm.
she is now a in quotation marks story with no ending. There's no justice for her. He's not serving time for her, and he should be. He should be. If it is him, he should be serving time for what he did to her, on top of what he's already doing. If it is him, it should be extra.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he's in prison for life anyway, it should be extra anyway. Doesn't matter if it's another 25 years and he's already going to die in prison. He should be held accountable for what he did to that girl.
Honestly, he should not have been free
No,
the
he
day
shouldn't.
that Josette went missing, because
No.
prior to that point, he had already been arrested twice on rape charges.
Yeah, exactly. So he's been found guilty of rape before. So for that, he should obviously be in prison. He shouldn't have been out anyway. But that's not the point. It's the fact
Mm-hmm.
that him or whoever did this, if he didn't do it, whoever did this to her, no one has been made accountable for that what happened to that young child. And that's wrong. That's so wrong.
It's absolutely insane. Like,
This is the worst case you've ever done.
it's unbelievable, and it's frustrating, and there's never justice. How is justice going to be done at this point?
There isn't any justice done. Not for Josette. There's no justice for Josette and her family.
Not for the boy
at all.
I know I keep calling them boys. I mean,
all.
these are men now. But yeah,
You know, that's right. Now they're men, but at the time they were boys.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. And
to be honest, I'm glad to draw a line under this case because I've shaken my head so many times during this episode. I feel like I've got whiplash.
Yeah. I don't blame you. It's horrible.
It is horrible.
It's horrible.
This is so unjust.
And here's the thing. How can we allow the people that we rely on, the people that we rely on to keep us safe, to investigate, to prosecute these criminals, how can we allow them to do stuff like this, to manipulate and to lie and to flat out just say, these two innocent kids are guilty, and we just let them continue doing their job, even if they get fired from their current position, they're just going to get hired by another police department.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is
It's
99%
not okay.
of the people that go into the police force do it with good intentions. They're good people,
Yes.
And they want justice and they want good stuff. But this case has been one on top of another of mistakes, of manipulating evidence, manipulating witnesses. This whole case really, really needs a huge review. It needs a departmental review completely. Because it hasn't been handled well, and it looks bad for the police. It does look bad for the police because most police officers are there to do the good job.
No, absolutely.
And this is just crazy.
Absolutely.
I'm glad this is over.
This is a case.
This just made me so mad.
This is a case where I feel like you have two detectives that were in over their heads.
Yeah.
And they were like, they wanted to prove something. And so that's what they set out to do. They said, we can do this. We can get a conviction.
Yeah.
And we'll get a conviction however we can. We're going to get a conviction in this crime.
Yeah, it's a shame.
And they sure as hell did.
Shame.
But they didn't do any real police work. They did no real police work.
No.
Everything that they presented, all the evidence that they presented, fell into their laps, and they created on their own.
Yeah. It's a shame. It's a real shame. It's a shame for those two boys, obviously now men. It's a shame for Josette. It's a shame for her family. It's just a huge injustice. It's the embarrassment, injustice, and frustrating case. But thank you for telling us the story. I can easily see how this could have gone over like 4 or 5 episodes, but I think I would have been so angry and frustrated by the end of it, I probably would have given up.
Yeah. No,
But
absolutely.
thank you.
I
Thank you
mean,
very much.
very frustrating, and I mean, I'm glad I told it, but I'm also glad that I'm done with it.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I mean, both Morgan and I would love to hear your thoughts. So let us know what you think about
Mhm.
this case. You can reach us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to hear what you think about this, whether you are as incensed and as angry and frustrated as we both are. Definitely. If you want to email us, you can do that too. It's really easy. You can just do contact@crimepediapodcast.com. Easy. Yeah, thank you. This is well needed. At the end of our episodes, we always like to do something we call Dumb Criminal. And here we go with this week's.
Hey, dum dum head, you's a real jackass.
Okay, so this is to give you a little bit of light at the end of a very heavy episode. So, wanted man Wayne Parker evaded authorities for nearly a year, okay, after committing
Mhm.
$1 million in fraud. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The police basically, okay, so he committed this $1 million fraud, right? He was 35 years old. He was
Yeah.
found guilty last October of owing $970,000 to suppliers. He failed
Ooh.
to appear in court in February for sentencing and was being hunted by police. No one found him. They couldn't find him. He basically went on the run. They How they did it, I don't know how they managed to do it, but apparently he was using a dating website called Match, okay? And
Okay.
he had his profile on Match, right? And he was
Mhm.
returning back to Suffolk to have these dates with women in Suffolk, okay? So
Okay. Yeah.
that is how they caught him. What they did was they set up a profile and caught him by setting up with him for a match on this website. And
Oh
that's how
my
they caught
god.
him.
What a fucking idiot. No.
So you're on the run
He
from
was
the police, but you're still carrying out your dating love life online with your face in the picture,
no.
like your face in your profile and everything. Absolutely
No.
ridiculous.
But he was out of the Suffolk area then, right? But
Yeah.
he would
And he
return
came
for those dates.
for the dates. Yeah.
What an idiot.
I mean, why don't you just go and date women like that you meet in a bar or something? But no, he's got
Yeah.
his own profile on Match, and he's meeting these women, and he gets caught because they set him up, and he goes on a date with a police officer. I'm guessing.
He's like, I'm gonna get lucky. Nope.
Yeah,
You're complete opposite. Not lucky
I'm
today,
gonna no,
buddy.
I'm gonna take you home, and I'm gonna tie you up using my handcuffs, and he's gonna be like, "Oh yes, great." She's gonna actually get out a warrant card and go, "Unlucky fella, unlucky."
Oh no.
So
That has to be the worst.
yeah.
The worst the way to
Yeah.
get caught, and arrested
Yeah.
because you're
How
looking for love.
embarrassing. Yeah, how
He was looking for
embarrassing.
love,
Um,
ends up
yeah.
arrested.
But don't feel too sorry for him though, because he was
Unbelievable.
actually prosecuted for
Oh no.
spreading bovine tuberculosis. So he was a farmer and he was failing to dispose
What?
of farmed animal remains properly and things like that. So yeah.
Oh.
So strange man. Unlucky.
Wow.
Unlucky, my love. So yeah, that is this week's Dumb Criminal. So we will be back next week with another episode next Tuesday night or next Tuesday day, whenever you listen. And we will see you then. So thank you for joining us. For now, be nice.
And bye.